why the bill is important and how it affects students. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go back to your partner here who testified first, and you brought up the issue that bothers me most, and I don't know really if this bill gets to that aspect. And you talked about faculty hiring, and can you expound a little bit on that, or how you see that, or how does it play out on campus?
So I would say, so I'm getting a certificate in public or educational policy as well, so I'll just use that as an example.
Okay.
So most of my professors in the education building tend to teach their classes very left. And so I feel like when I go to that class, I'm not really getting what I should be getting from that class as compared to my peers. And so I think in that instance, they're bringing politics into the classroom because they are a very liberal professor. And to talk about how I had he was a conservative professor, but I didn't know that until I finished his class. But in that class, I learned the most because politics was not incorporated into the class. And I know that politics is going to get brought up in most of my classes because they are political science classes. But I don't think that it should be taught so left in each class, and that just happens because of where the professors tend to politically stand.
And it's interesting that you bring up the School of Education, because that is one area where I have a lot of concern about how free speech affects the education there. You also talked about, you brought up the 35% figure. 35% of people think violence is, can be an appropriate way to deal with issues. It was suggested earlier that that number is the same in society as it is at the university. So that sort of proves that the university doesn't have anything to do with it, which I don't see it that way. And especially being in the School of Education, the university is a school. It's teaching students, and then they go out into the public, and then somehow we're shocked that the numbers are the same. Why wouldn't they be? Is that the way you look at that?
Yeah, I would. A different conservative peer of mine did give that example at one of the events that I was at, and she was saying kind of the same thing, where we're teaching these liberal ideals in our at our universities, and then we produce these teachers that tend to be very liberal. And so, how do we even address that issue if that's what universities are promoting?
All righty. Questions from committee Representative Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for being here. I know it's probably not a comfortable position to be in front of this committee, but I appreciate both of you taking time out of your day to do this. Is it Hannah and Courtney? Am I getting that right? Okay. Hannah, I had a question for you. I appreciate you bringing up the different initiatives that are on campus, like the dinners and the exchanges, and I'm particularly interested in the Pluralism and Unity Advisory Board. You said that the kind of the purpose of this is to kind of dig into harder topics to talk about, and for everybody, this is what I'm understanding from your comments, kind of everybody to learn how to have these harder conversations, correct?
I guess I wouldn't say that it's how to have these conversations, just to allow different viewpoints to be heard.
Are there ways, and I think this is one thing that I've seen, are more of these groups kind of popping up on different campuses to generate growth and discussion. Are there ways that you have, first of all, how do you all on that committee or that board, assist each other in having open space to have differing viewpoints? I think all of us could probably learn from that, and not just in this building, but in this world. And then how do you take that forward into dorms or clubs or classrooms and use that in the future?
I think my biggest like positive that I've got from that is that it's allowed me to see where their perspective, like where other students' perspectives are coming from, because obviously mine is going to be different than the majority on campus, and so I guess to understand where they're coming from is very beneficial, so I can kind of think about what I'm going to say before I do say it, even though I'm not that I'm changing what I'm going to say, just the wording of how I express it. And I think that with having that background knowledge, I think that it allows me to go into classes or other clubs and be able to talk in ways that other students can respect where I'm coming from as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a problem that our entire country and world is trying to figure out where we can find this is how do we respect individuals and still have different opinions and encourage people to have those conversations. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
Representative Moses.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Hannah and Courtney, for taking time to come here. This issue is very important to me. I have my oldest daughter is similar age to both of you. Actually, recently graduated from one of our UW institutions up in Representative Krivic's district, used to be mine, UW River Falls, and she expressed some of the same concerns that you guys are bringing up today. So thanks for representing at least a portion of your peers on this, where she had to self-censor quite a bit of what she did because of some of the professors' thoughts and the fear of retribution that she had. But unfortunately, I'm kind of thinking like Representative Emerson. She started touching on this, which I was going to bring up. I know, it's a rare thing. But I want to...
No, don't make me use the gavel here.
I'm trying to be nice. There's a question here. But the Pluralism and Unity Advisory Board, can you explain kind of what that does, and then how much the general student body even is aware that is even an initiative or what's going on there?
Yeah, so on this club, we kind of look at arising political issues that tend to be controversial on campus. This Friday, we're actually talking about the encampment that you guys brought up earlier. And so with that, we just talk about the different perspectives that students have on these issues. And it's been very beneficial, well, to an extent, because so you have to apply for this position, and it's only allowed about 20 students, I believe. And I think the last meeting we had 7 students come to it, and for some odd reason we had a conservative majority in that, or Republican majority, and it was me and 3 of my peers, my conservative peers, and then 3 students that tended to be liberal. And I think that kind of goes to the issue that not a lot of students know about these initiative programs that the university is promoting, because in my opinion, I don't believe that they see this as an issue on campus. And because they don't see it as an issue, they're not promoting these initiatives so that the broad student population can get involved in these programs.
That's kind of what I suspected you'd say, because my idea was I thought this advisory board would kind of be a diverse makeup of the entire UW institution, whatever campus it would be on. And it sounds like it's really not, just because the general student body is not probably even aware this is going on.
I would also like to add, for the deliberation dinners, it's supposed to allow students to talk about, again, polarized topics in politics. And there's about 10 students at each table, and the university is supposed to have differing political perspectives at the table. And I was the only conservative student out of 10 students. So how is that actually going to allow me to feel like I can talk about my stance on an issue if I'm the only student within 10 students that's conservative?
Then one more question, Mr. Chair, as well. At least one more. And then Courtney, you're the president, or what is your title with YAF?
I'm the chairwoman.
You're the chairwoman. Okay, I didn't want to mix that up. So YAF operates obviously nationwide on college campuses across the country. So I would think you'd be aware. What are other institutions doing across the country to protect this? Like what this bill's trying to do. Are you aware of other states? Are you a Wisconsin resident?
I'm a Minnesota resident.
Oh, right. Well, what made you come to Wisconsin? That's the other question.
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
But also I love the university. I would say a lot of other universities are in a similar boat that we are, where they don't have very good free speech protection rights on campus. And Minnesota would be a very good example of that. The YAF chapter there has had issues even starting up just because their university has tried to suppress it so much. That being said, I would also say UW-Madison, as far as YAF chapters go, has built up a really big reputation as for having an administration that's extremely hostile to us. So I know this was mentioned a little bit earlier, but when we brought Matt Walsh in 2022, we had a huge protest outside where liberal protesters got very hostile and caused $30,000 in damage to the Historical Memorial Union. And so then when we brought Michael Knowles the following spring, that's what prompted the university to try to charge us $4,000 to protect our event from liberal protesters once again. So we definitely have built up a reputation among YAF chapters as being one that's really struggled with the environment on campus. And that's why AB 501 is really important. I know it does have a provision specifically in it about charging security fees against events just simply for certain political views.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't have a bunch more questions, so I'll make it
I hope
very
not.
short. But, it was already discussed earlier, but the situation that happened at UW Eau Claire with the table getting tipped over, and that got a lot of publicity. But we also had situations at UW Stout, minor situation that the university dealt with, in my opinion, very well, and also at UW River Falls last fall as well. And then we actually had former Governor Scott Walker, when he was kind of making the rounds across the state, visit UW Stout. And the extra security and the cost to the institution was there, but we had protesters outside, and then we had a lot of hecklers in the room with the governor as well. But overall, that was a very positive experience. It went very well. People kept themselves controlled, but it was a little nerve-wracking because you didn't know what was going to happen. But there was definitely opposing views and stuff in place. So I do think our institutions are trying, but I do think the point of this bill obviously is putting a little bit more teeth to it. And I guess the question I did have, maybe this is a Ledge Council question, what happens if it's a student or someone who's not even affiliated with the university, similar to what was brought up prior to the Charlie Kirk murder, someone who's not from the university, not an employee. So I got two questions. If a student is the perpetrator versus just a community member coming on one of our campuses and doing this, how does this bill affect that?
The perpetrator of what? What is this person doing?
Violence.
Okay, well, that's criminal. I mean,
Yeah.
violence is criminal, so it doesn't matter if it's a student or a random.
But does it affect the university? Does it trip the trigger essentially for the university to start getting penalized?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
So
that's my
if someone if another student is violently like hindering a speaker or something, that would be covered by the bill. And the university would have an obligation to act and would not they're not allowed to let people do that. And so the way that the bill is phrased is that nothing in this section enables individuals to engage in that sort of conduct. And so I think there's an argument that if the university failed to act, that would be a violation of the provisions. But if they act, it would not necessarily be. I think it's a little trickier if, let's say it's like not a criminal act, and it's a member of the public. It doesn't specifically say